A NATO commander says that there are, quote, flickers of al-Qaeda among the Libyan rebels. Where Michael Holmes is here to discuss the possible risk of the terror group gaining influence in Libya. That is today's Globe Trekking. Michael, good to see you.
Good to see you.
It seems as if people around the world, they want to help the Libyan rebels. They want to help the opposition overthrow Gaddafi. And yet, there could be al-Qaeda among them, we are learning.
Almost certainly there would be elements of al-Qaeda or individuals.
How real is that?
Well, you can file it under sort of shades of grey. You know, there's nothing in Libya that's black and white right now, that's for sure. There is obviously a humanitarian crisis that's going on in Libya. No one really is arguing that Gaddafi should stay. But let's talk about if Tripoli falls, Gaddafi's regime crumbles, and, you know, there's a lot of pretty justifiable fears about what a new Libya would look like. Now, as you said, the US NATO commander, Admiral James Stavridis, he told the US Congress yesterday that the intelligence about the rebels is showing that, you know, most of them are responsible men and women, you know, good folks fighting for a cause. They want their own freedom, they want tyranny gone, etc. But another unnamed official is backing up Stavridis' statement and says that while there are a sprinkling, let's say, of extremists, nobody should think that the opposition is being led by al-Qaeda.
Is there a real risk here, Michael, when you think about it?
Well, you know, there's a real risk anytime you get an impoverished country like we see in Libya, in the Arab world, and it becomes unstable. Al-Qaeda's expert at feeding on that hopelessness, you know, people who are poor, angry, disenfranchised, people who see no other way out. Al-Qaeda can step into that breach and say, well, look to us. No one's saying that Osama bin Laden's leading the assault here, that there's, you know, but there is a distinct possibility that if tumult ensues after Gaddafi, stability and some brand of democracy doesn't replace him, then anything's possible. And that outcome is very possible. The thing to remember about al-Qaeda is it's not so much an organization as it is an ideology, which that's what makes it so hard to fight. You've got various groups around the world who buy into the ideology, then they become al-Qaeda. And that's partly why, as I say, it's so hard to battle. And there's no al-Qaeda HQ, very little structure there. It's a set of ideas. Now, the global community will want to keep a close eye on the influences that vie for control, obviously, in Libya.
So when we talk about the rebel groups here, it's very different. We're doctors, teachers, volunteers, former military generals, all kind of a hodgepodge, if you will, of folks. How do we understand how influential this group is, and who really makes up the rebel? Yeah,
you know, that is right. It is very much, let's call it a melting pot, if you like. Mixed in there, you could have elements of al-Qaeda as well, or al-Qaeda leanings. You know, just one more example of how complex and layered the situation is in the Arab world right now. Now, there's one final thing, too, that's worth pointing out here. Al-Qaeda documents that were recovered in Iraq and studied and verified at West Point showed that 1 in 4, 25% of the foreign jihadists fighting Americans in Iraq, guess where, came from Libya, mainly eastern Libya, where these rebels are based. It wasn't a massive number, but I think the percentage is significant, and that's what's worrying a lot of people.
All right, Michael, thank you for your perspective. Obviously, there are still a lot of questions about who these folks are and whether or not they should be supported.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay. We don't know what's next.